And now to discuss the regional and global products being built here in Singapore and the opportunities and challenges, we have Siew Choo from DBS Bank. She's the Managing Director of Technology. She has driven major transformation in the technology talent pool and architecture of DBS, adopting truly agile ways of working. Patrick Theo is an experienced technology executive who has led teams at successful internet companies for over 20 years. Patrick is currently the site lead and engineering director, payments at Google Singapore. Brian Weng is the head of engineering APAC for Stripe. Prior to Stripe, he was with Facebook as a research scientist, working on user growth features such as people you may know and notifications using machine learning. And moderating this panel is Kiren Kumar. Kiren is the Executive Vice President of the Singapore Economic Development Board. He also heads DISG, that is Digital Industry Singapore. And he wears the hat of the Assistant Chief Executive of IMDA, and that is the Infocomm and Media Development Authority of Singapore. Kiren, help us find out why here, why now in Singapore?
All right. Very good morning, very good afternoon, and very good evening for our friends who are dialing in from Singapore and from around the world. Welcome to the Singapore Tech Forum. It gives me great pleasure to be here to discuss why here, why now. If you take a 6-hour flight from Singapore and draw a circle around it, there are more people living within that circle than outside that circle. If you look at a recent Temasek Google study, the Southeast Asia e-economy is poised to grow from $100 billion today to $300 billion in the next 5 years. We have 600 million people living just in Southeast Asia, and 400 million of them are already online, largely mobile. Where are the growth areas? E-commerce, obviously, transport and food, online travel, online media, financial services, fintech and payments, and emergent areas include health tech, edutech. The growth is not just on the consumer side, it's also on the enterprise side. We are seeing an unprecedented digitalization of various companies in all sectors, banking, consumer, manufacturing, and many others. On the back of this context, the tech sector in Singapore has dramatically transformed in the last 5 years. Today, it accounts for about 8% of the Singapore economy and has created 210,000 very good jobs just in the tech sector. But we have another 100,000 tech jobs across the economy in banks, in consumer companies, in the government, and many others. We see this as an exciting moment that we are at a tipping point to ride on the growth of Asia, digitalization, where Singapore can be an important node in a global network of technology hubs to create new innovations, new products, new services from Singapore for Asia and beyond. And today I'm very privileged to be moderating the session with 3 esteemed technology leaders who have built innovation, product, and engineering teams in Singapore. We heard from the startups and the scale-ups earlier, but these are technology giants in their own right in different parts of the industry. So without further ado, let me invite my panelists to join me. Thank you for being here with us, and thank you in advance for sharing your perspectives. And maybe if I could kick off the discussion. You know, I had the privilege of working with all of you and your organizations for many years now. And it's really nice and heartening to see how you have grown, how you have transformed your operations in Singapore. Today, we have technology giants and digital champions from around the world descending onto Singapore, from your FANGs to your BATs to fast-growing companies globally, which are above decacorns like Stripe. And we have a vibrant startup ecosystem that we did not see 5 years ago emerging in Singapore and Southeast Asia. So perhaps let's bring it down to ground zero to talk to the technology leaders who are making this happen in their companies, in our ecosystem. Choo, you know, you've been around the world, and some will argue that, you know, DBS, while you are a bank, but you're actually a technology company who happens to be in the banking industry. Could you share with us what you're building in Singapore? What are your teams doing, and how you have expanded over the last few years? Choo, over to you.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Kiren. I think really we started our transformation journey, the digital and technology transformation journey, maybe more than around 6 years ago. When we first started, actually, most of our technology, whether it is application support development or infrastructure, are largely outsourced. We started to look at insourcing all of this capability, especially the engineering and architecture capabilities for the bank, because we believe that our competitors are not the other banks anymore, but the big tech company that is fast coming into the banking space. So we started with a relatively kind of a small goal. So we started small, but eventually it led to the entire bank, ranging from the business technology to the back office technology to the infrastructure, everything being in-source, involving I think more than 7,000 people across a relatively short period of time of 2 to 2.5 years. And I think what is amazing is actually the insourcing effort was successful beyond our imagination. So if you think about, touching so many areas of the bank with involving so many people in the environment whereby, we have been largely outsourced, we did not anticipate that we actually did not suffer any business interruption in this whole process. But we actually managed to achieve the goal of, I think, firstly, building a very strong engineering team, but more importantly, actually, with this engineering team, we are able to create a differentiating experience for our customer. So that was the main benefit that we got out of this. Those of you who has been in the Asia region, especially in the financial industry, may have this understanding. I mean, years ago, that Singapore, I think, used to be known at least for the financial industry, as a place for technology support, but not technology build. The places for building stuff in the olden days means more than 10 years ago, is probably Japan, Australia, India, and maybe sometimes Hong Kong. But the results that we have achieved in our insourcing shows that actually I think there has been tremendous change in terms of the ecosystem of talent that is available in Singapore, and you are able to get the quality of candidate that you need in terms of deep technical engineering to build major enterprise system from scratch. That is what we have done actually, in the last few years, successfully. So I think that has been our experience, and it has been a great journey.
Thank you so much for your perspectives. The transformation of DBS is truly something. It's a vanguard and a benchmark for many companies who are trying to do the same. So thank you for your leadership in our ecosystem. Patrick, we have known each other for some time now. You have worked around the world and you have come back to Singapore. Thank you for that. 5 years ago, when we were talking to Google to say, why do you set up an innovation R&D team in Singapore? And in those days, the conversation was, actually, I can do everything centrally in San Francisco and push it to the world. But something changed. You guys started talking about the next billion users, and Google decided to set up a significant R&D engineering and product team in Singapore, which you now lead out of Singapore. Could you share with us your experience about why was that decision made, and what are you actually doing in Singapore to augment your global resources in product development? Thank you.
Sure. First, thank you, Kiren, for inviting me to the panel, and thank you to the rest of the panelists. Looking forward to an exciting conversation. Singapore has been our home in Asia for more than a decade. It's our regional headquarters where senior leaders across various functions are located, and we have over 2,000 Googlers working here. It's a great place for Google to have impact in Asia Pacific, as well globally, both in tech and non-tech functions. As Kiren mentioned, in 2016, we set up an engineering team here to lead product development for the region. I'm glad to share that we have a great tech culture, the same culture that Google has globally, but with an NBU focus, NBU being next billion users. We believe that these next billion users who are coming online experience a different internet than we may experience. And in being true to our mission, Google's mission, to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful, we want to help these users have a more relevant and inclusive internet. And we believe that to do this successfully, you need to be closer to these users, and Singapore is a great place to base this work. Together with other Google teams around the world, we built a team in Singapore to help Google better understand these new internet users in India, Southeast Asia, and even as far away as Latin America or Africa. we've built new products that serve the needs of these new internet users. But we believe that in solving for these next billion users, we also solve for the world. We have since grown our Singapore team and have engineers, designers, product, and program managers. Today, the Singapore team works on products that help the next billion users, for example, Files by Google and others. But we also work on products that have global impact. And that's what one of my teams work on. And so the product that I'd like to share with you a bit more later is Google Pay. We've benefited from this ability to tap into talent in Singapore as well as the region, but also being close to our users, learning from them and helping them experience the internet. And now we're bringing these learnings to the rest of the world through products like Google Pay.
Thank you, Patrick, for sharing your perspectives. We'll come back to the products and see how you guys are working together as well. Over to you, Brian. I had the pleasure of meeting Patrick Collison a couple of years ago, and Stripe was thinking of setting up your APAC headquarters here, and now a large engineering team, one of 5 major hubs globally, and you have the responsibility of leading that, and you have lived in Taiwan, SF, and in Singapore. Could you share with us why Stripe decided to do this in Asia, in Singapore, and what was the driver for some of your decisions?
Yeah, so Stripe, first of all, thank you, Kiren, and thanks for Singapore Tech Forum to invite us to be able to have this honor to speak in this forum. So Stripe, we build a financial infrastructure for internet, right? So one of the vision we have is so-called GPTN. It stands for Global Payment and Treasury Network. So we handle pay-ins, and we want to build this programmatic infrastructure, allow users to be able to do money movements, money management in between, and then also pay out to our customers. So we want to do this globally. And if you think about what are the people are, if you count the APAC population, it's actually more than 50% of the whole world, right? So it's very important. This region is very important in this plan. And we also realized that we have to be very close to our users. So we were able to talk to them, understand their needs, and build a feature that really solve their needs, right? So we decided to build a distributed teams, product engineering team to facilitate that. And then APAC, why Singapore? I think Singapore in particular has many attractive for this purpose. First of all, I think the language definitely is here. English is a major language used, right? And the life quality here is really good also, that you can track talents from all over the world. So Stripe announced Singapore to be one of the 5 hubs, engineering and product hubs in the world, and in 2018, sorry. And now it has been 2 years, and now we already have offices in Bangalore, Tokyo, Melbourne. They're reporting back to this APAC hub. And we've already built few products from the region, including FPX in Malaysia, for example. So I think Singapore serves as a great hub to be very close proximity to this Asian population and users. And it's great to be here. And many things we build here, starting from here, but we can extend those to the rest of the world. Yeah, so that's our perspective so far.
Thank you, Brian. It's no surprise that we have Siew, Patrick, and Brian who are touching the fintech, financial service, and payment space. One of the beauty of being in an ecosystem and a tech hub is that the ability of not just innovating within your organizations, but your teams who are working on product and innovation, working across the ecosystem. Working with partners who are large companies or your customers to co-innovate, or working with startups to bring in technologies onto your platform to help them scale, but also to enhance your product features. Could you perhaps, for all of you, talk about some examples of what your teams are working on, where you're actually working quite closely with the ecosystem, and then how is that panning out in an ecosystem like Singapore and Southeast Asia? And if I could start, Patrick, to get the ball rolling. Patrick.
Oh, thanks, Kiren. I mentioned earlier about Google Pay, and we've been making great progress on the new version of Google Pay this year. And the Singapore team has been a big part of it. And I'd like to share a little bit more. Our mission for Google Pay is to make money simple, helpful, and accessible. people's experience with money is too difficult. And we have a global opportunity to help people make payments fast and easy, organize and manage their finances, save and grow their money, and in general, build a more inclusive financial system. In 2017, we worked alongside other teams. The Singapore team worked along other teams to build what is known as Google Pay India. We're humbled to be able to partner with regulators and banks to contribute to India's shift from cash to digital payments. We saw how this impacted digital payments in India and how digital payments helped support commercial activity in India, and wanted to do the same in other countries. And so after months of work, 2 months ago, we launched a new version of Google Pay in Singapore on Android and iOS. And this new version of Google Pay is based on our learnings from building Google Pay in India. We designed the user experience based on the relationships people have with other people and with businesses. We oriented the user interface around a conversational user experience, similar to what you would expect from a chat interface. This is because we want users to know who they are paying and to be able to see their past interactions. This applies to businesses as well. With Google Pay, you can see your past transactions for each business, as well as order food and buy movie tickets right on this new version of Google Pay. We've been longtime partners with Stripe, as well as many of our merchants use Stripe to accept Google Pay. We know that in Singapore, users can pay with credit and debit cards as well as Pay Now. We wanted users to be able to use Google Pay for all their transactions. And so we worked with DBS, OCBC, and Standard Chartered to enable their customers to pay with Pay Now right on Google Pay, in addition to using credit and debit cards. And it's been great to partner with Siew, who is on the panel here, and her team at DBS to make this happen, and we're continuing to deepen our relationship. Lastly, we want experience to be fun and rewarding for our users. This may be the first time many of these users experience digital payments. So we also created a digital scratch card to give users cash back when they use the app. Although it's only been 2 months from our launch, we are pleased with the results we are seeing. Our work on the new Google Pay for Singapore is actually part of a global mission, and we talked about global impact. As such, I'm excited to share that just today, several hours ago, we also launched a new version of Google Pay in the US with even more exciting features. With the new Google Pay, we are completely reimagining how people can use and manage money using their mobile phones. Amongst the many new features, users can now stay on top of their spending and manage their money more easily, as well as find transactions and receipts more easily. Users can also sign up for loyalty and rewards with merchants. For those of you joining in the US, I encourage you to check it out. We just launched a few hours ago. This was a major effort for the Google Pay team globally, and the Singapore team as well. We're delighted with this launch and being able to use our experience from Singapore to have global impact.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you for shipping India, a product for India, then to Singapore, then to the US from your Singapore team, which was part of the global network of Google to actually make that happen. Choo, over to you in terms of your comments on this question.
Those of you who knows DBS knows that we launched a tagline called "Live More, Bang Less" a couple of years ago, and actually it's a spirit that we live by in every product and services that we are giving out to our clients, whether it's men on the street or our corporate clients. The essence is that we want to be able to be seamlessly embedded in the everyday activities of our client to make the journey as easy as possible. We want to be totally invisible as a bank in dealings with our customer. So in 2017, actually, we launched the world's largest banking API platform. It was actually an experiment because up to that point, I think there were very limited understanding, at least I think in the financial industry, in terms of how an API can help us to create more creative products and services. So the idea here was actually to let others use our API to reimagine banking. And this platform actually has had a great success because from the launch, actually we have got many brilliant ideas how we can make everything accessible, as well as reimagine how the bank can serve our clients. So that is one of the key pillar of our strategy in terms of Live More, Bang Less. The other one is actually to is in terms of creating an ecosystem. DBS Marketplace is something that we have been working on for a couple of years now. And in here, actually, we want to make the journey of buying a property, taking a mortgage loan, planning your travel in the days before COVID, getting education, tuition for your children, buying a car, and all of these things, uh, involve banking to a certain extent. So we want to make sure that we provide all this information to you in terms of the property search, the car, search, as well as getting the loans and all that in a seamless journey. So that has been one of the key product that we have launched for a number of years now in a number of markets. So that we call the marketplace. And in the corporate area, actually, we have also embedded ourselves in various ERP system that when some of our SME clients purchase a particular ERP system and accounting system, DBS is the bank that's already embedded in those systems, so that actually there will be a seamless journey between the SME client and the banking activities that they have to do. So that makes everything much more robust. And finally, the partnership with many fintechs. We have launched many new and creative product. One of them we call the Robo Advisor, DG portfolio, to allow people to invest even with small amount. Such things, actually, we partner with the fintechs that's out there, and we believe that actually it is a symbiosis kind of relationship, and it is a win-win to ensure that we're not actually only creating stuff on our own, but also actually embrace all the startups that's out there to help us to accelerate the value we can provide to our clients.
Thank you, Siew, for sharing that perspective. I think we're seeing a lot of moves when it comes to using technology as an enabler for you to connect with the ecosystem, whether it's your customer, whether it's your client, whether it's the consumer. And we're seeing that not just in finance and payment, which is helping to accelerate digitalization for SMEs, micro SMEs, large companies, but also the consumers, and their lived experience is better, and you can actually layer on new services on top of that in order to make their lives better. Brian, over to you in terms of this question on ecosystems and partnering with other companies in your space. I mean, obviously, with Stripe being a utility that sits on another platform and actually service another platform as well. What are your perspectives on this?
Yes. So as I said earlier, we're building this grand vision of Global Payment and Treasury Network, GPTN. So partnering with all other companies, whether local or global, is a key thing to achieve this vision. So we're very excited about all our partnership with Google Pay and also DBS here in the region, but also in some other places as well. And one thing I like to talk about is, although we're in Singapore, we're in APAC, our engineering product team here, but we actually build for everywhere in the world. Like, for example, we work closely with teams in San Francisco, in Dublin, to enable certain Europe country launches and also their payment methods, right? But specifically, as I mentioned earlier, we also work on some very challenging APAC country expansion and local payment methods. Like, for example, Malaysia, we launched last year, and the very important payment scheme we enabled there is called FPX. So this project is completely built from the ground up here in Singapore. And as I said, we started this engineering product hub only in 2018. So we're very proud of the speed we're able to get this down. And again, the learning here, because we're so close to the user here, so we're able to talk to them frequently, understand their needs, and the learnings here can apply to the rest of the world also. Right. So yeah, that's my perspective.
Thank you, Brian. I'm just looking at some of the questions coming in, but we already had this discussion point that we wanted to discuss. There's a theme around culture and talent. Obviously, all of you have had the privilege of working globally and also building up large teams in Singapore, as we talked about. What are some of the similarities and differences you found when it comes to engineering culture, team culture, as you operate hubs from around the world, as you built up your Singapore capability pool. Could you share some of those perspectives over there? Because obviously diversity is critical for innovation. You need to create pathways. You're creating new jobs where skills may or may not exist. There are many vectors to this. Perhaps, wanted to get your thoughts around that. And maybe Brian, we start with you this time. Your thoughts on that, because it's quite new for you guys over the last few years.
Yes, I think Stripe has the luxury of, when we set up the office here or engineering hub here in Singapore, we actually get a lot of applications from people all over the world. Many of them have international experiences, but somehow they're in Asia at the moment. And some of them want to relocate to Singapore to join us in this hub. And so, but specifically what we're looking for talent is that, Stripe is a user-first company. This is one of our key principle in our company. So we want engineers to also deeply understand our users, what they want, how they want it, and then work backward from there to decide like what are the products we should build for them. Right. So we have very rigorous approach to our API design. That is why our APIs are considered one of the best in the industry. Like we want our API to be simple, simplicity, and also compatible, additive, and predictable. And most importantly, also is backward compatible by design. So to achieve these, we're looking for people who have the rigor and clarity of thought, think hard about ensuring the best possible solution for the users, but also willing to contemplate what seems improbable and don't mind being wrong, right? So, and we also want people to have determination for success, willing to put in hard work and enjoy doing so. And we also want people to be able to bring people with them and up-leveling the team, recognizing that we can go further together instead of being an individual superstar. So all these are the attributes we look for these in the candidates. And to maintain a high bar, we actually infuse this culture in multiple levels. So this is across the entire company, not specific for APAC. So we maintain the same level, same bar for the hiring in this region.
Thank you, Brian. Patrick, over to you. Google has such bases around the world now, also in Singapore. Could you comment on your journey when it comes to culture and capability, your experience so far, and how is Singapore similar or different from some of the hubs that you have elsewhere?
Yeah, I think there are many elements to building a good culture, a good engineering culture even. And we are fortunate, as you mentioned, to be able to leverage this experience that Google has developed over many years in Singapore. One of the core values at Google is to respect the user. I think Brian touched on that. With that, we believe that it's not just a focus on the user, but also every user, but everyone, I mean. And this is, while this is a corporate culture, I think this is particularly relevant for engineering teams. As engineers, we use technology to bring positive impact to the world. We need to understand the user in order to do that. At Google, we conduct user research and we share it broadly so that everyone, engineers and non-engineers, can understand the user. Before COVID, when we were able to travel, we also encourage engineers to participate in what we call in-country immersion trips. In addition to such values and a focus on users, I believe engineers also need to be able to work cross-functionally. And this is something we encourage at Google as well, not only with other engineers, but with also non-engineers. And as PM mentioned in his keynote, for the need for ops tech collaboration in building the tools we need to use to combat COVID, I agree wholeheartedly with this. And we encourage all our engineers in the team to understand the business context or the user problem we're trying to solve, and also to work cross-functionally to solve them. In addition to working cross-functionally, I think it's also important to create an environment of psychological safety and risk-taking. Because ultimately, innovation requires accepting failure, and failure is difficult for organizations and also for individuals. But failure is important because it can lead to learning. So in Google, we have processes and constructs like blameless postmortems, where we identify how we could do better, and constructs like error budgets, where we allow teams to balance reliability of the systems that they manage as well as the pace of innovation. So these are some of the things I find that are important to encourage in a work environment, to have a culture where people feel a sense of belonging and the ability to have impact.
Thank you, Patrick, for that perspective. I think it's becoming very clear that when it comes to building innovative products, we need to put a consumer in the middle and have not just technology, talent, and engineering, but people who understand the operations, the consumer, and building teams that can bring value and new innovations to the marketplace. Siew, over to you. Google and Stripe are big born digital companies that do this quite naturally. For DBS, it has been a tremendous and amazing transformation journey from procuring technology and IT operations as your core to really transforming to driving digital products, platforms, API integrations that you spoke about. What has been your experience in building a new culture, a new capability in an organization that has been used to a different paradigm?
Thanks, Kiren. I think in many ways, DBS is very much like Singapore. We are neither too big nor too small, so we can be very agile and flexible in making a lot of transformation in a very short period of time. So that I think is a great advantage of DBS, and that I think is the secret sauce of why we have been able to make such a big transformation successfully over the period of time we have been mentioned about. The other thing I would say that Singapore being a multicultural country, diversity is embedded in everything that we do. The embracing differences and inclusion is part and parcel of how we work. And I think this actually contribute to the innovation and the creativity of people that we have in this country. And in a certain sense, I think it helps us to actually punch above our weight. Even though I think Singapore we are called a little red dot, but in terms of our achievement, where we have been, is really we are punching above our weight. And I think that's thanks to the firstly the embracing the diversity. I think secondly the huge number of very talented and educated people, and I think more importantly also the merit-based culture. I think the merit-based culture is something that probably is a differentiating factor in terms of working here. Regardless of who you are, what your background is, I think as long as you are committed and you deliver the results, you can advance in your career, and that is a key factor in terms of culture, the working culture here. And I would say lastly is the openness and sharing. The willingness to be open and to share knowledge creates the rich ecosystem to exchange ideas and to build upon each other's idea and create something that is differentiating. I think that is the other thing that I think we are pretty proud of, and I hope that this will continue to make us the country that can actually achieve big things despite the size.
Thank you for that. So, culture always eats strategy for breakfast, but culture is a work in progress. So while you spoke about, how you're working on some of these things, some of the advantages and the diversity, and also the experiences and culture you're trying to build, what continues to be your one big personal challenge as leaders of your teams that you continue to work on as a priority? So, perhaps back to Patrick, for you, your personal challenge.
I would say that I'm really happy with the team that we have built. We have had the luxury of relying on the years of experience that Google has had in terms of building teams, and we've shared some of this research as well out, and it's and we've seen companies adopt this research. But ultimately, we work on many things. Some of the things that it's probably noteworthy to share is, I think it's important to, in this situation where talent is at such a shortfall, and tech talent is what we're talking about here, that we foster a culture of learning, right? And that's not just the programs that we run externally, which I'll touch on later, but also the programs that we run internally to encourage this culture of learning. I'm not sure if the guests on this listening to this panel is aware of, but we have this program in Google called Googler to Googler. It's G to G. And this is a program where employees develop and grow by teaching peers who have the first opportunity to learn firsthand knowledge of various parts of a business. This is, we started as a skunk's work community effort, and now there's over 10,000 Googlers globally dedicating a portion of their time to developing their peers, giving lessons and whatnot. These learning opportunities include, learning Android from the engineers who actually develop Android, to Python coding, but also to parenting, to mindfulness, and in the middle of COVID, also, with cooking. And 80% of the training sessions that we track are actually run through this program, and we'll continue to do this program virtually. As Choo touched upon, I think the other thing that's important is to continually build and promote a diverse workforce, because we believe that diversity of perspectives, ideas, cultures, these lead to creating better products and services. At Google, being a global company, our users come from everywhere. So we need a workforce that mirrors the diversity of our users. And research also shows, which we have shared, that when solving complex problems, diversity of skills, perspectives, and abilities, they lead to a better outcome. We're committed to building a workforce that's definitely that's representative of our users, and also a fair working environment that creates a sense of belonging for everyone. So the Google Pay team in Singapore that I mentioned earlier, we have people from over 20 nationalities, and these are leading product development for our latest Google Pay experience in India, in Singapore, and now today in the US. So I would say, culture is an ongoing process, and these are some of the things that we focus on: building learning and increasing the diversity of our workforce to better serve our users.
Thank you, Patrick. Choo, your big culture challenge?
I would say that in the early days when we are trying to do our insourcing, where we have to acquire a lot of deep tech talent from scratch, the challenge has been to actually do that in a fast way, but not compromising any quality. Great news is actually after a couple of months, we came up with a method that has proven to work for us quite well. We launched an annual hackathon we call the Hack to Hire, to hire people using this method, whereby we actually have a kind of challenge for 48 hours. And in those days, it's a physical hackathon. So over the last 3 years, actually, we have attracted over 60,000 applicants, and coming from 18 different countries. We invited the 3,000 plus to the 11 hackathons we have launched in the last 3 years. And so far, we actually had 700 of them, being offered and still working with DBS. This, I think, is a great method. And why I said, this solved some of the challenges I had was because we wanted to build as diverse a team as possible, especially in terms of their background. We wanted people coming from non-banking experience. We wanted people from, the academia, the startup, the technology companies, even the entertainment companies and the media. And through this hackathon, we have been able to attract all of these people. And this talent actually brought in a lot of different perspectives that changed the way we think and the way we work. So, this method has solved one of the challenge I had. The other challenge I would say is in terms of, still happening today, is gender diversity. I don't think this is peculiar to DBS, but I would say that the representation of female in the tech industry is still, below the desired number, and this is something we still to continue to work on. But I think great thing to say is that I believe from my experience that if you put in some effort, you'll be able to see a great result. Right? Recently, actually, we launched a DBS Women in Tech virtual hiring event. From the inception of the idea until the day of the event, actually it was only 5 weeks. We managed to attract more than 500 women to apply to all the roles that we have, and we eventually make 50 plus offer. So that has been a great result. I think within 5 weeks we managed to fill 50 roles with all of them with women after going through the 500 candidates. That has been a great result for us.
Thank you, Choo. I think SM Tharman made the same point that Singapore could be the template of how we can bring women in tech in a way that is sustainable and would really change the diversity as well as innovation of our ecosystem. Brian, your biggest culture challenge?
Yeah, so as touched by Patrick and Siew, that diversity is also our top focus because we're so close to the user, we're building for the user. And so we believe with more diversity, we would know also like what users really want. And so in terms of diversity, what we're really focusing on hiring so-called underrepresented minorities, so URM candidates. So whether it's gender or it's local people from local community, it's all our focus. And we did also have programs like Women in Tech. We host regular sessions to talk with the senior female engineers in Singapore and try to recruit them. And we also get some success. Like for example, recently we onboard two female engineering managers. So those are, we want to increase the ratio of our diversity in leadership as well. So far, we've been pretty happy about our progress, but certainly there are a lot more we can do still.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for sharing that. It's time for Q&A, and I'm going to take one of the questions that's coming up. It's from Esgian Tay from Singapore. What roles are you particularly short on right now? Can you tell me more about the hard-to-fill roles and why global tech talent might be able to fill it better than the local talent pool? But if I could just add some context to that. Globally, there is a shortage of talent, whether you are in San Francisco, Singapore, or in UK, London. I think this is a global issue. The needs for these skills is outstripping supply globally. We face the same challenge in Singapore, but the government is putting a lot of resources to do so. We are working with all our major companies, including DBS, including Google, including Stripe, to build up a bench of Singaporeans who can fill some of the tech jobs that you are creating. But perhaps if you could comment on that question, and I think it's a very good one, in terms of your view on the shortage of talent, what exact skills are in shortfall that you see in Singapore? And how are you thinking about building a diverse team where you actually augment the Singaporean pool with global top tech talent? Brian, maybe I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, as I said earlier, so when we started the office in 2018, we actually get a lot of applicants from all over the world, and many of them are very senior engineers. And we did hire some of them as our first batch and sort of landing teams here. But as we keep hiring, we realize also that the talent pool here for junior-ish engineers are very good. I think students here, the training is awesome, and then they're super productive and then very quick to learn new things. So we're very happy about it. But certainly the senior engineering pool is, compared to Silicon Valley, because where I used to work there for almost 10 years. So compared to Silicon Valley there, that's a little bit of shortage. So sometimes we need to source to other places, and then sometimes relocation is needed. So that's definitely a little bit challenging. But I think that's also partly because of the time that Southeast Asia in general just has a shorter history in tech compared to Silicon Valley. So I think it's improving. We see the rate of improving is pretty fast, but that's what the challenge we have so far. So that is why I think this particular forum is very good in solving that.
Great. Thanks, Brian. Patrick, from your vantage point, what will be your comments on this question?
Sure. I think I want to echo what Brian said, which is that for junior talent, we have been fairly successful. The universities that we partner with have been great partners, and we help shape some of the curriculum, and we have an ongoing dialogue of what industry needs and what the university is providing. So I think from the new grad hiring perspective, I think we are in good shape, and the university has also been increasing the number of spots in these courses. But what we also need to do is essentially expand the pool and help the industry grow in terms of encouraging more people to join the workforce. And we do that in a number of ways at Google. One, as I think both of the panelists have touched upon, is to encourage more women into tech. And we in Google have a number of programs to do that as well, because more women leaders would mean more roles for young women. One of the programs that we do to encourage more women in general into tech is this program we call the I Am Remarkable It's a workshop that encourages women to self-promote, and we've discovered that for underrepresented groups, self-promotion is actually something that's challenging. So to date, we've had these empowerment workshops at Google, and it's helped over 100,000 women, both inside and outside Google, and over 100 countries, and offering these workshops by over 800 companies. So one aspect of it is to encourage more women into the tech workforce. The other is to nurture the developer talent we have in Singapore. And what we've done here last year is to launch a new Google developer space in the Google office. And this enables Google and developers and startups to create networks, share technologies, share ideas. And since then, over 13,000 developers have also benefited from the insights and mentorship. And we also launched, despite COVID, a new startup accelerator for Southeast Asian teams. So I think it's the situation with new grads is reasonably good, and it's improving. I think what we could do more is to encourage more people and to develop the talent in mid and senior career areas.
Thank you, Patrick, for sharing that. Siew, I think you alluded to this already earlier, but your comments and thoughts on the question that was posed earlier.
I think the key challenge has always been around senior talents who, especially in the enterprise architecture space, right? Someone who has the experience to actually build big mission critical enterprise system from scratch. I think from scratch is the keyword, using modern technology, and yet do it in a way that is cognizant about all the tight controls that we have in the regulated industry like financial industry. And so on, and do it fast. So that kind of talent is, I think, few and far between. The way that we try to solve this problem is to actually by pairing the people. Of course, at the bank, we have a lot of talent who has been able to navigate such kind of constraint for a long time. We typically pair them with new blood and new talent who knows the new technology, and together, I think they can create something wonderful, actually.
Thank you for that. I think sometimes it's a function of time. Through experience and working in diverse global teams, looking at products at scale, I'm confident that Singaporeans who may be coming in at the junior level will have the ability to rise over time and build capabilities through experiences, whether it's regional markets, whether it's technology architecture, or whether it's working with the best of breed globally in your global networks. There is another question coming in. This is from Netra Murali. Okay, and I think it's a very good question because we talk a lot about the tech sector, products, engineering. It's very easy to have the takeaway that I only need deep technology capabilities: AI, cybersecurity, software, data analytics, etc. These are all specialized skills. However, the question is, what are the prospects for non-STEM graduates or people who have been working in other sectors without these deep technology backgrounds to actually participate in some of the jobs that your companies are creating so that they can actually participate in the growth while working in diverse teams with different capabilities? What are your thoughts on that, and how have your organizations dealt with some of these opportunities as well? So maybe, perhaps Patrick, if you wanted to go first.
Sure. I think although this session is about tech, it's important to realize that in order to launch something meaningful and useful to people, it is not about just engineers or even just of designers, but it is actually an ecosystem of cross-functional expertise that is needed. As I mentioned earlier, PM talked about ops tech. So it's definitely a cross-functional activity to build something useful and meaningful to users. And so at Google, like in my day-to-day activities, as well as with the engineers, we work cross-functionally with both tech as well as non-tech counterparts. And when we encourage that. So I think if you are not in STEM, I think there is still a large opportunity because we are here together in a cross-functional way. We need essentially non-tech folks to work together with tech in order to build something meaningful and useful.
Siew?
For me, I think we don't hire only people from tech background. Actually, as I said, the diversity is very important. And if for the tech team, we only hire people from the tech background, then I think we are missing a lot out there. So for example, actually in my team, we have a Scrum Master who is a lawyer. She's a lawyer by training. We also have behavioral scientists in our team. We also have people from accounting background, actually who has taken the AWS cloud practitioner, the Google Cloud Engineer certification, and they learn to become tech too. So apart from the fact that not all the jobs in tech requires coding, that we also actually spend a lot of effort to attract people from a non-tech background and get them certified in the tech skills to make sure that we have a good mixture of people from all different kind of background.
Brian?
Yeah, similar to what Patrick and Choo said, I think to launch a thing meaningful for the users, it actually requires cross-functional teams to work together. And although we're a tech-driven company, but actually the engineers just one part of the whole thing, right? So we have roles in partnership, operation, legal, policy, etc. So there are actually a lot of people working together. So these people doesn't have to have a STEM background. And another thing is, I think people can learn things pretty quickly if you want to, right? So I think, yeah, we basically hire people who want to learn, want to grow with us. So.
No, thanks, Brian. I mean, in my own language, what I say is that the tech sector is creating a lot of jobs, but there are jobs for hackers, your technologists who build products, your AI, your cyber, your software, your cloud. But there are also jobs for hipsters, those who are creative, understands the consumer, understands design, UX, UI, being part of that hacker team, hipsters and hackers coming together. But you also need the hustlers. Those who understand business, understand the operations, understands the markets, and actually can bring a product to market for commercialization. And I think that hipster, hacker, and hustlers coming together is really going to be the secret sauce for success for any ecosystem. And I think that's certainly taking root in Singapore. We see that at the macro level, and you're hearing it from our companies that's also true at the firm level. Perhaps just maybe one last question before we try to wrap up. This is a question specifically for Patrick and Brian. Google and Stripe have got large engineering hubs around the world, including Singapore. Is there really a glass ceiling when it comes to how high you can go in these organizations, given that you are an outpost and you are not in home base? Maybe perhaps your thoughts on that. Maybe Patrick first.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's like a glass ceiling, if you were, but roles are a function of business needs. So as the business grows, greater roles are created. And because we work on products that have global impact, there is not a sense that the impact from a regional outpost, as you call it, is any less than the impact from an office in the US, for example. So again, roles are created as a function of business impact. And what we've seen in Asia, and all of us have lived here for a while, is there's such a growing trend in Asia for tech and digitalization. The recent Singapore Temasek, so the recent Google, Temasek, and Bain report showed that just in this year, 40 million, we have 40 million new digital consumers. And to put this in context, we've added 100 million in the last 5 years. So in 1 year, we've added 40 million compared to 100 million in the last 5 years. So we are seeing Asia, APAC boom in terms of digitalization, and that would lead to more business need, which will lead again to more roles in tech. For Google Pay, for example, we have several directors and a VP who's responsible for Google Pay in all of Google, located in Singapore. So I wouldn't say there's a glass ceiling. It's a function of growth of the business and growth of the industry and ecosystem that we're in.
Thank you, Patrick. Brian, over to you. Quick one.
To add on top of that, I think what Patrick actually mentioned a very good point, which is depends on your impact and the scope of your role, right? And if you think about what we're building here, we're building features or products for APAC users, and it's more than 50% of the population. So if you consider that, that's actually a huge impact opportunity. Although the economic size here may not be as big as US at the moment, but like is growing really, really fast. That's one. Second is that I think Stripe is very devoted into making the workplace more distributed. So earlier, before COVID even hit, Stripe announced that the fifth engineering hub is remote. So we're taking remote engineers, they can working from their home, right, and dial in, because we believe that with the advance of internet and tooling, this is more and more possible that people can just work remotely with folks. But then you have a lot of things to figure out, like, for example, how do you onboard new hires? How do you increase the day-to-day collaboration between those remote workers? So in fact, we hired more than 100 engineers last year. They are all located in different places. So we built a lot of tools to facilitate that. So the lines of where you exactly are physically is very blurred. Yeah, so I don't see that, at least for Stripe. And then, yeah, and it's very optimistic that they will be becoming more and more flat.
Thank you, Brian. We have 3 more minutes, and I'm going to ask all of you one question. We spoke about yesterday, we are speaking about today. I want to now speak about the future. The year is 2030, 10 years from now. What is your personal vision to how the technology ecosystem in Singapore and Southeast Asia looks like? All right, I'm going to start with Brian. I'm going to put this on you.
Okay, yeah, this is my personal view, because a company has, well, we have 5 years plan, but this 2030, well, yeah, so I'm representing myself, and I'm super bullish. You know, I work in Silicon Valley for quite a long time, but I see the opportunity and exciting things happen in Southeast Asia and Singapore. That's why I'm coming here. Although I'm not Singaporean, right? I'm actually Taiwanese, but I think Singapore is maybe the best place to be in APAC if you are in this industry. So very bullish. I think it's hard to say what will come up, but my approach will be open to any challenge or opportunities when it comes. And I believe that with the internet and with people more educated, and then there will be a lot of exciting things happen here.
Thank you. Patrick, over to you.
Yeah, it's really difficult to see what 2030 would look like. Sometimes, you know, in a year like this year, many things change, and sometimes it takes a long time. Things don't change as much over a long period of time. But I am super bullish, and just like Brian, and I know many of you are, you know, thinking about coming back to Singapore, and it is a difficult decision. I made this decision a few years back and never regretted it. I lived and worked in the Bay Area for almost 27 years and moved back to Singapore. What is clear is, you know, you will have a global and definitely regional impact, and you will work with technology that you would find in Silicon Valley. But if I want to give you advice in terms of like whether, you know, of how to think about coming back, 3 to say 5 years ago, Singapore, or tech in Singapore, is sort of like a startup that has finished raising their first round and they're building capabilities and necessary preconditions. Today, Singapore tech is very different. It is a startup in its growth stage, and we have many of the preconditions. Like, we have a number of large tech companies and more joining Singapore, vibrant tech ecosystem, universities expanding their computer science curriculum, and government that supports tech and just gets it. So similar to the advice you would get about joining tech companies during their growth stage, if you choose to work in Singapore as the tech ecosystem goes through its growth stage, you'll get the experience to shape the ecosystem and also benefit from being one of the pioneers. It's hard to say what 2030 would look like, but it's definitely an exciting time for tech in Singapore and the region.
Thank you, Patrick. I couldn't have said it better. Choo, you have the last word on this.
Yeah, I think 10 years is a super long time. And if you look at what has happened in Singapore, the technology ecosystem in the last 5 years, you will predict that, you know, you're going to see exponential change. What that exponential change will be, you know, I don't think anybody can actually imagine, right? But, you know, it's going to be a very rich and fulfilling environment for the tech community if we go by what we have seen in the last 5 years. You know, on the other hand, I would say that, you know, one hope I have for 2030 will be, you know, my hope is actually that, you know, the tech ecosystem will be better represented in terms of gender, you know, overall, because today we are still standing at around 25 to 30%. Hopefully in 10 years time, you know, if not reach 50%, you know, somewhere near there will be good.
Thank you. And perhaps to share my own perspective, my teams at EDB, IMDA, and DISG are working very hard with all the companies that we talk about here. And our vision is really, how do we create a dynamic, a diverse, and a sustainable tech ecosystem here in Singapore that's connected to the major nodes around the world, but also being very valuable and useful to the growth of Southeast Asia, in digitalization, in bringing impact to societies, in making Asia a better place to live, and creating opportunities for Singaporeans who are coming out of our universities to work in the tech sector, for Singaporeans who are based in San Francisco, London, Beijing to come home to participate in this growth, but also be a location where the best and brightest global talent in this space come here to contribute, grow their careers, and build a vibrant tech ecosystem. So thank you very much to my panelists for your perspectives, your passion, and your continued partnership to build a dynamic technology hub here in Singapore, here in Asia. To our audience, thank you very much for listening in, and I hope you found the perspectives and insights useful as you think about your careers and your journeys moving forward. Thank you very much.